Yeah, here I come again with another video. I was just thinking about something on my way to work this morning, and I couldn't help but to just put a video out. And a lot of the times we complicate things by what we see and the emotional appeal that elicits certain thoughts from us as viewers. As we look at the Coach Prime experience, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was 110% in. I felt it. The emotional appeal sucked me in. It siphoned me in. It suctioned me in, and it was disappointing because I understand, and this is something that we can all take with us as we live, whether you're young, old, or whatever. We all understand that the first impression that you put out, it's very hard to relive that first impression. I know you guys have heard the old adage when it says you never get a second chance to make a first impression. That's very true. The first impression of Prime was great, but there were first impressions of every facet of the team. There was a first impression of his first press conference when he spoke to the Colorado team of 1-11, the 1-11 team of last year. That was a first impression. There was a first impression of their first practice. There was a first impression of everything. And then as you move along, before the season starts, you also have a first impression of the first game, the first impression of the second game. So everything for Coach Prime was a first. Every game was a first. Even though it's his first season, if you want to break it down in the minutia of things in terms of looking at it from the small incremental details, everything that Coach Prime experienced with the Colorado Buffaloes was the first experience. And I feel like the way he carried the team this year, the way he just went about everything, the way even Shedeur acted, and at first I was kind of in the middle, because I'm a big believer in that if you are winning games, then you sort of have a little bit of leg room to kind of showboat just a little bit, but not too much. When Shedeur was doing the Shedeur with his watch, flashing his watch, initially when they were winning, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing there, but be careful because now you're putting a bigger target on your back. Coach Prime, aka Deion Sanders, he alone by himself attracts attention. He alone by himself brings the big target on his back. He did so as a player. He did so as an analyst. He has that. There's just certain people who have that personality that just attracts attention. Whether the attention is negative or positive, it's attention nevertheless. So when I see that, and I see that the father being the coach of the team already attracts attention to the team, saying he wants to win now, he wants to dominate, we come in, all the slogans that were being prophetically uttered out, and people were saying it. Apparel was being made with it. You had hoodies being made. You had merch being produced from those sayings. And it was a good marketing ploy. I don't have anything against that. What I had a problem with was that if Coach Prime is branding and he's pushing the program as he sees fit, because every coach is going to do it their own way, you don't need Shedeur to add an extra layer of attraction to what was already attractive. The attraction to Colorado was already there. I don't think that Shedeur needed to do the Shedeur. I don't think that all that was needed. Give you an example. Look at the wide receiver for Ohio State. He's the best receiver in the country. I just think that his quarterback was a little bit below average, and I think if he had a better quarterback, he would have had better numbers. Harrison Jr. I mean, he scores touchdowns. He does little celebrations, but he doesn't go over the top. See, when you're winning, you can celebrate. But when you are losing, don't celebrate anymore. Even the games when they did lose and he would score a touchdown, he would find a way to still flash his watch. I'm like, stop it. That to me is a sign of a kid that's immature. And I know the media puts out the information about he's mature for his age. Coach Prime says, I put in my phone grown. Yeah, there are certain elements of kids, of people, even young adults, that they can give off the veneer of maturity based upon whatever context you're talking about. But when it comes down to the context of competition and having common sense to be humble, Shedeur is not that. He is his father's son. And we know Coach Prime was flamboyant. It's in the blood. But I think that that's where a father has to step in and talk to his son. You guys watch the games. You guys see before the game as the father is pacing up and down the sideline with his son before the game. You know, Coach Prime said, you know, we walk to the 40-yard line, and after the 40-yard line, I'm no longer father, I'm coach. And I made a statement about that before on the previous video. I talked about how instead of you always talking to your son, pacing up and down the sidelines, looking like it's all about your son, I would like it if you had the whole team walking with you. It shows a sign of unity. It shows a sign of camaraderie. It shows a sign of uniformity. I don't like the fact that you're only talking to your son up and down the sideline. Now, some of you guys may say, I mean, you're being overly too critical. It's not a big deal. You're just a hater. No, I'm not just a hater. Optics is everything in football. Optics is everything in life. Optics is everything in the social media age that we live in, where there's cameras everywhere and people pulling out their smartphones and people can record from any angle. I think that when people already feel and know for a fact that the team is predicated on Shador, that daddy's all about his son and patting his son's stats, I think it'll be in Coach Prime's best interest, rather than walking with your son, making it a spectacle, making it seem to the public world that's viewing that, yeah, it's me and my son and we're going to come dominate. No, it's not you and your son. It's you and the Colorado Buffaloes team. Every single one of those guys on the team are just as important as your son. Now, probably not from an emotional standpoint. I understand that's your blood son. You're going to have a different emotion towards your own child. I understand that. But as a coach, which is why I believe it's very hard for a coach to coach their son, especially if the son is playing a position that demands the ball. It's not like Coach Prime has a son that's playing on the offensive line, or Coach Prime has a son that's playing on the defensive line. That'd be different. His son is the quarterback, meaning that the ball touches his son's hands on every single down. That's tough. And you also have to empathize and deal with the fact that Coach Prime has been coaching his son since he was a little child, since he was in Pee Wee football. So there's a strong connection and a strong bond that's there. So I think that if Coach Prime would actually sit back and look at things from an objective lens and stop looking at it like, oh, woe is me, God is on my side, and everything that somebody says that's against what I'm doing, they're just hating, and God this and God that and God that. That's one thing I hate about people who talk about God so much. They feel as if they can't be critiqued. They can't reconsider certain actions that they take because they believe wholeheartedly that whatever they're doing is a mission or a sign from God. And when in actuality, they haven't heard, let me not curse. In actuality, they haven't heard anything. They haven't heard ish from God. This is all in their damn heads. Those are all symptoms, or I should say, the actions of narcissism. When you believe in your own press clippings, when you are creating your own narrative within your psyche, and then you attribute it to, to God. Wow. They're doing that spraying stuff again. It's thick. I wish I could record it, but I'm not going to record it. So yeah, so I think that it's just difficult for Coach Prime to use this second year to make a first impression. I feel like he did have momentum initially, and it's not just about wins and losses. It's about how the team looked. And if you think that I'm making a big deal out of this, we'll see, because people talk. People talk, and there are people in that locker room. As people are starting to spread apart and leave, just as much as people were talking great about Colorado and bringing in recruits, the players that were there this year who experienced Coach Prime from a first-hand experience, not second-hand experience, because we're just second, third-hand experience. We're not in the locker room. These players are going to talk. As they leave and you have graduates, people are going to ask them questions, and people are going to start spilling the beans about their experience with Coach Prime, and it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Because if it was good, we wouldn't have what we're seeing happening. And I just believe that everything was just done in reverse. I find it very difficult to see how you can have momentum, lose the momentum, and then try to regain the momentum during recruiting season. No. Coach Prime, yeah, people know where to find you. And that's your saying. They know where to find me. Yeah, they know where to find you. That's the problem. They're not going to come find you. They know where you are at, and they know what you are about. You're going to have your work cut out for you, Coach Prime. And I don't believe that you have I don't believe you have the patience. I don't believe you have the inner grind to do that. Maybe as an athlete, as a player, that was different. You're an older man now. You tend to live off of your laurels, your cachet, your past accomplishments. But most of these players don't even know who the hell you are. They'll have to actually look at old footage to see who you were. Yeah, people understand you were a great player, and you could talk to your blue in the face about how great you were. These young athletes nowadays don't care about that. You know, we live in a me first and me-centric society where it's what have you done for me lately? And lately, Coach Prime, the dynamic of your team hasn't really went well. You didn't send a message of team. You sent the message of me, and my son. And you have a lot to do in terms of repairing that image that you gave off. And that's me being optimistic, assuming that Coach Prime actually sees that. And if he doesn't see that, then he's going to just repeat the same thing that he did last year with a lesser talent pool. Because I truly believe that there are not going to be many players through the portal that are going to be dying to come to Colorado. I do not believe so. Not the kids that are going to be disciplined, not the kids that are going to be patient. Like Coach Prime, he speaks of the kind of student athletes that he wants, but yet he doesn't conduct his team in a way that would cultivate that type of those type of athletes. You know, DJs in the locker room, hip hop culture. I mean, that's great, but football is football. Let's separate all of that and make football football. And then if kids and you on your spare time you want to do your rapping thing, then do that. The reason why I'm being critical here is because it didn't amount to wins. It didn't amount to your team playing well. It gave you guys a lot of holes in your. It pretty much opened up a lot of holes in your team for people to be critical, and people like me are going to be very critical. You know, winning sometimes masks a lot of ills, but I think that everything can be a blessing in disguise if Coach Prime can actually look at what he's been through and look at it and say, you know what, I have to make a change. But that's a big if. That's a big if. You know, you're talking about a man that's nearly 60 years old. Most men at that age are fixed in their ways. They're not going to change for anybody. They're not going to change for anybody, and which is unfortunate. But we'll see how it goes. But it's just hard to regain that momentum. It's hard. It's, you know, when you first come on the scene, it's like a sprinter. You know, a lot of people say that when you rebuild a program, it's a marathon. Well, the way that Coach Prime came out, he came out at like a sprint. He came out, press conferences, Louis luggage, starting off the season 3-0 was a sprint. And all of a sudden, as the season wore on, he faded. Not only did he fade from a wins and loss perspective, he just faded in every facet of coaching 101, the way he handled the media, the way he talked about his team, the way he refused to change the philosophy of the team in terms of the offensive schemes, the way everything went, coaches being demoted. Even though I believe that, you know, it's not even I believe, I know that Sean Lewis wasn't demoted, but all of that, this is just your first year. And there's just so much chaos and drama within your first year. It's amazing. So when you put that type of pressure on yourself to win now and to dominate so quickly, it can backfire on you. It's analogous, or it's compared to a person who's overweight and they want to lose weight so desperately that they go out and they overwork themselves to the point that they get sick. And once they've done that, now they have a bad taste in their mouth about exercising. They feel like exercising is a pain, and they feel like this is not something for them, that it doesn't work. Well, you started off too hard. We all know that weight loss programs take time, and that's why it's called a program. It's a marathon, if you want to compare it to track and field. But Coach Prime came out like a sprint, and I think that sprint mentality that he came out with is starting to backfire on him and on the team. Coaches leaving. Think about it. If people truly believed in what Coach Prime was doing, most of those coaches would not leave. Now you may say, well, people do it all the time. It's his first year. He's not even fully. The first year just got complete like yesterday. And Nick Williams, some other tight end coach. I mean, coaches just leaving. Then you're going to have to replace everything that's gone. And you think that, you're going to be better next year because of that? No. Next year's going to be like your first year. And that's what happens when you take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. I'm not going to say 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Coach Prime took 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. In other words, nothing happened this year. There was no progress made. He's back in the same position that he was in last year. And I would argue and say that next year he's in the worst position that he was this first year. At least the first year, as I said earlier, he had the momentum of coming to Colorado to save Colorado football. He had the slogans. He had the Louis luggage speech. He had the swagger. But now people are starting to see beneath that. And I think it's just it's right. It's about the right time for Coach Prime to leave. It's perfect that his son is a senior next year. So next year would be his, to me, in my opinion, I believe that next year after next football season will be Coach Prime's last year as his son leaves. Because I don't think Colorado can take another year after that of Coach Prime. It's just too much. It's just too much. He doesn't come across as a man that's trying to rebuild. He comes across as a man that's trying to insert his agenda, which involves him first and the glorification of his son. And the team is second. Brandon first, my name second, my son third. You can all put all those three things in one cluster, in one package, and everything else after that is second. And it cannot be that way. It cannot be that way. Everybody ripped that Oregon coach for telling Coach Prime that they're about clicks and his team's about substance, but he was being factual. As a matter of fact, if you look down on my videos, initially when I heard that, I was against what the coach of Oregon said. I don't know his name now, but I didn't like that. I was against it. But as things are starting to unfold, it's true. Coach Prime was all about clicks. And most teams were all about substance. Most college teams are about substance. They're about rebuilding. They're about football. Coach Prime is about everything else and football. Football is an and. It's an addition. You can't have football as the addition. Football has to be it. It has to be the central focus. If not the central focus, everything else has to be contingent upon football. It can't be slogan brand, my son is great, and then I'm going to use football to show it. Is that no, football is great. Now, I love the game. I love the kids that I'm working with, and we're all going to be great together. And you may say to yourself, well, that's not really a big deal. It's mention of words, it's semantics, but those things go a long way. We all know that the little things in life all add up to make the big things. Your whole dynamic and your mental philosophy of how you approach anything in life is going to dictate in the long run how things are going to go in the bigger, grander, in the grander scheme. So, I mean, Coach Prime needs to change that, but will he change that? That's the big thing. And everyone is keeping an eye on their recruiting status. I'm sorry, guys. They were already in mid-60s in terms of recruiting rating before the season ended. And I don't think they're getting better. I think they're dropping in terms of their recruit level. I don't think they're gonna. We'll see, man. We'll see. I just don't see the fact that those verbal commits who wanted to come there are decommitted. You had a guy, I forgot his name. Remember the guy who graduated early from high school? I think he's a receiver, and he wanted to come to Colorado. He actually graduated early from high school, came to Colorado campus early so he can start training with them and start practicing early. I mean, that to me is almost as good as a commitment that's signed with a signature in it with it. I mean, that's almost as good as something that's written in stone. And for that kid to decommit, that tells me a lot. That tells me a lot. When you're so sold on something and then you retract, that to me says a lot. And what people will always say, that people do this all the time, athletes do this. Yeah, but what's happening in Colorado is an outlier. The way Coach Prime is the outlier. There's no coach in a country coaching Power 5 conference football that comes across as Coach Prime comes across. The allure, the attraction that he brought to Colorado and to college football as a whole has never been seen before. So when you guys keep comparing, just to make your arguments, just to make it convenient for your argument, is to say that it happens everywhere. People decommit. Yeah, people decommit everywhere else. But everywhere else is not Colorado, and everywhere else didn't bring the same luster and attraction that Coach Prime brought. You don't decommit from Coach Prime. That's a failure. Usually when Coach Prime has you in his grips, he has you. If he was able to flip Travis Hunter, #1 recruit in the nation, to come to a HBCU, come on, guys. When players are decommitting, that's a big deal. When you're talking about, when you put it in context in terms of how it's correlated with the Coach Prime experience, you can't sit there and try to make it seem like it's a normal thing. Nothing is normal about the way Coach Prime does anything. So let's stop trying to normalize this decommitting stuff and saying that, oh, other coaches and other teams, it happens to them too. Yeah, them. It's everybody else, and then you have Colorado. So I'm gonna look at Colorado with a keener eye. My eye, or my laser focus is gonna be different than my focus is on other teams. I'm gonna look at them a little bit more critical. So when a player who commits early, Even AJ Hill, the 2025 class, the quarterback, 6'5", in Atlanta, who initially said he wanted to come there. Who initially said, I'm going to help recruit offensive linemen. He's out of there. He decommits. Now, people say, no, he didn't really decommit. He just said he wants to look around. Why? What do you mean you want to keep your options open? What happened to keep your options open? And that's just political talk. These guys are leaving. And I think you guys see it and know it. You just don't want to believe it because you believe in Prime so much. You're hoping for the best. But you guys have to look at the evidence that's sitting right in front of you. You're seeing how this thing is unfolding and how it's unpacking into something that's not going to be very good for Colorado next football season. I hope it goes well. We'll see. But I know that next year is going to be Coach Prime's hardest challenge to bring victory and bring success to the Colorado football program. All right, thank you guys for listening. And leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. All right, bye.